Welcome back to the Run, Dusty Run podcast, where runners from all over the world share their stories and running journeys. Along the way, we hope you'll be inspired, encouraged, and that community will be built. Well, today's episode is a special one, the Pittsburgh edition. That's right, just back from the Pittsburgh Marathon this past weekend, and what a weekend it was. Folks, this race weekend is as advertised, worth every single penny. Going into this race, I knew that the hills were a major factor, and they were as advertised. They were absolutely brutal on the back half of the course. But again, I wouldn't trade this weekend for anything. It was absolutely incredible. If you have not had the chance to run Pittsburgh, highly, highly recommend it. So on today's podcast, we're going to break down that race, what that experience and that weekend looked like, and maybe hopefully encourage some of you to give Pittsburgh a shot in 2027. Well, as I said, it began this past weekend, and I flew out from Garden City on Friday morning. Flight was super easy into DFW, from DFW into Pittsburgh. I arrived in Pittsburgh about 2 p.m. local time, and I was immediately overwhelmed by the hospitality there. As soon as I walked in, there were stands and statues and this little, like, very cool informational area where they had signs. They were welcoming the runners and marathoners, and it was just very, very welcoming from the beginning. From there, had about a 25-mile Uber ride into town where my hotel was down along the river. It was in Sheraton, in front of what's known as Mount Washington, a very cool historical landmark there. Again, was welcomed by the hotel staff, super, super friendly. I had a chance to grab a quick bite to eat that night. Wanted to get to the expo, and so made my way there. And the city Friday night was alive, despite a relatively cloudy, rainy, kind of cold Friday night. Made my way to the expo, and you could really just feel the city was alive. The NFL draft had just taken place there the week before, and so now 52,000 plus marathoners converge on the city along with their family and friends, and those folks cheering us on. And so we make our way to the expo, and again, Pittsburgh, they do everything first class when it comes to race weekend. The expo was incredible. There were vendors from all over the place. Yeah, vendors from all over the place. And so I just remember going into that expo with my eyes just wide open like a little kid. There were vendors for as far as the eye could see. I remember Brooks had a mechanical bull, but rather than a mechanical bull, it was a mechanical Brooks running shoe. And the challenge was to try to stay on that for 15 seconds. And it was pretty wild to watch world-class athletes just being bucked off of that thing right and left. And so I decided, in the best interest of my physical condition, I made a business decision and did not participate in that, and instead chose to watch and laugh at others who did. Big events there, big runners, big speakers. Local hometown hero Nick Bear was there, and just the powerful message that he sends of just go one more, and just very true to the roots of Pittsburgh and sort of that blue collar, hardworking mentality. You really see that permeate in the running community there as well. But again, back to the expo. First class organization, production, all of it was great. Met some friends from Alter Ego Running who I get an opportunity to do a little bit of work with. Had a few special edition Pittsburgh only hats there. And so just a really cool time. A big bib pickup was super easy, super efficient and streamlined. People there were just super friendly and welcoming, and wanted to know your story. And so despite some really long lines at vendors, it just meant there were a lot of people there, and the stuff they had there was really good. And so I decided that I was going to get everything I needed on Friday night so that I didn't have to trek back through downtown the following day. So I make my way back Friday night to the hotel, feeling pretty good. I know now, kind of getting a lay of the land a little bit. And it was really odd to me. There were just bridges everywhere. And so I was actually across the river from where we were running, but 3 rivers are coming together. And so, as you can imagine, just bridges everywhere. And so it was really cool. My hotel was located right next to, maybe a tier 2 Major League Soccer type team. And so was able to just kind of watch a game right out my 9th floor window. It was really cool. Hotel was right on the river, so I got to watch that game. I could look across and see the stadium where the Steelers play. I was just kind of like a little kid overwhelmed. And so, again, got some dinner that night. I got a good night's sleep. Saturday was another really cool day. I woke up with a little bit of anxiety and nervousness. I needed to know where the start line was. I knew that I was going to have to walk across the bridge, and I was trying to conserve as much energy as I could on Saturday. That's something coaches really instilled in us is to not waste a bunch of effort and energy just walking around. Knew I had to get a shakeout run in. They did have a shakeout run Friday night at like 5:30, but it was just cold, rainy, and I was just honestly I was just a little travel weary from the day, and so knew I had a lot going on Saturday. Made it sort of my MO to get up and find that start line. I needed to find where my corral was because I knew I needed to be there along with 52,000 other people. And so anyway, make my way to where I thought the start line was, and it was kind of a weird situation because I'm looking at GPS. I'm like, this is exactly where it's supposed to be. Where is it? I'm kind of excited. I want to take photos of the start line and post those on socials and everything, and nothing, just crickets. And so I'm looking around like a lost tourist, and I clearly catch the attention of a local there, and I could tell just by what he was wearing, like, and just kind of his demeanor. He knew what he was doing. And so I asked him, and he said, yeah, you're actually in the right spot. I mean, like, the start line is going to be right there. But in Pittsburgh, to not cause more traffic issues, what they actually do is they set everything up, including the start line and the corrals, at midnight. So when everyone's in bed or should be in bed, that's when they go full mode on setup. And so anyway, I just had a little peace of mind about that. Made my way back to hotel. It was really cool. For those of you who don't know, and I guess it really doesn't matter, I'm a huge baseball fan. And though I pledge my allegiance to the St. Louis Cardinals when it comes to baseball, I know that Pittsburgh has a very, very beautiful stadium. Many would say the best in all of baseball. And so I knew at some point I needed to get a game in, and secretly, as my wife predicted, I really wanted to get 2 games in. And so I was able to get a ticket kind of last minute on StubHub, and found out that this little steamboat that's right next to my hotel, for $15 round trip, it'll take you right up. It'll take you down the river, around the corner, right to the right field gate of PNC Park. You get a beautiful view of the Allegheny, the Roberto Clemente Bridge, and what seems like a dozen other bridges. And so hospitality was very cool. Apparently, at 6'6", I kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. The locals were wanting to know what I was in town for, told them the marathon, and they just thought that was the coolest thing. And so I got first-class treatment. I mean, just genuinely kind, welcoming folks. Man, just the kind of people you want to be around. And so made it to the baseball game that night. I really, really enjoyed the view, just kind of tried to take it all in. I was definitely nervous about the next day because I knew this was the first marathon coming out of the winter. I had heard the stories of the hills, and I had done some homework, and I knew the elevation gain, and I knew how concentrated the hills were on the back half. And so I was doing everything I could to conserve energy, but then dawns on me at the game, hey man, you need to be carb loading too. And so carb loading at a baseball game isn't real hard. Trying to be smart about carb loading is another thing. And so I found some good deep dish pizza there, pounded some of that down, watched the game. It was crazy. It was just run after run after run in the game, but just really enjoyed it. It was beautiful, took it all in. But again, in the back of my mind, obviously is the race. And so made my way. I could actually cut out the game a little bit early, which goes against every fiber in my being to leave a baseball game early. But I did, just to get back to make sure I got enough rest. And so got everything set out for the night. I tried to get to bed early. I did all my fueling, stretching, everything, got everything set up, ready to go. I got a shakeout run in earlier in the afternoon before the game. And so I really, really felt prepared going into Sunday morning. So Sunday morning, I wake up, kind of do my thing. I try to eat my carbs and calories a couple hours before. I started fueling and hydrating, and kind of went through the routine, got everything ready to go. Knew it was going to be relatively cold in the morning. I think it was a high of about 35 degrees that morning, but I also knew the forecast was supposed to be beautiful in terms of clear skies and sunshine. And so despite the cooler temperatures, the sun was nice to have out. Made my way over. Super easy process getting into the corrals. I mean, Pittsburgh, the organization for this race is second to none. I mean, I certainly haven't ran them all, but this was very, very well organized race from start to finish. And so I make my way to the B corral. It turns out there's B1 and B2, and I was in B2, but I was where I needed to be. And I love to travel, but one of the things that I love to travel with the most is my family. And if not family, obviously friends or teammates. But this one was a little different because I flew out by myself. My wife was with my daughters at a dance competition. So it was just dad solo. And so it was a little different approach. But anyway, I make my way to the bee stall, or to the bee corral rather. And as I'm there, I'm waiting, and I feel this tug on my shoulder, and I hear a man's voice say, "Dusty, Dusty." And I thought, who on earth is this? And sure enough, it's my guy Travis from Run Bros. If you haven't checked out his page, check it out on Instagram. Great page, great dude, just with a great story as well. And so I'd encourage you to check him out. But turns out he was in the same gate. He probably needed to be in the gate ahead of me, because he was far, far faster than me. But I'll never forget. I mean, just the energy. We all know, if we ran a marathon, like there's a certain energy that's hard to describe to those who maybe haven't had the chance to participate. And man, it was electric. It was absolutely electric. And as each group went off, like, it wasn't just the elite group, but as each corral went off, I mean, smoke would come out of these pillars at the start line. There were flames going there. I mean, the music, all of it. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable that there was pyro and smoke for B and C and D and E gates, and on and on. But just a incredible way to kick off the race. And I read somewhere that along with 52,000 runners for the weekend, over 300,000 fans were in attendance as well, cheering people on. And when I saw that number, I was like, wow, that's a third of a million people. But it really, as I think about it and as I reflect on the race, that number really shouldn't surprise me, because you guys, I can't describe to you how much from start to finish people were cheering. And oftentimes it was 2 and 3 people deep, and it just felt like it was start to finish. These people were just cheering. They were excited. They were encouraging. They did a fantastic job with hydration and fueling stands. I want to say there was like 19 out on the course. So phenomenal job. My favorite, I love to use Go Gels, and apparently that's where they're headquartered. And so there were Go Gels everywhere that you could get and grab. The folks volunteering, whether they were, the police officers directing traffic, or just the volunteers at the medical tents or the hydration stations or fueling stations, were absolutely first class, kind and welcoming and encouraging. I mean, it wasn't like they were just there feeling obligated to do what they were doing, but they took joy in what they were doing. And it may not seem like a big deal, but when you're in mile 20, 21 of a race, that's a big deal to have someone encouraging you, especially a random stranger. So as far as the race itself goes, from the get-go, really the first 11 and a half miles were absolutely beautiful. I would even use the word gentle, if that makes sense. No real elevation to speak of. And the scouting report kind of indicated that on the first 11 and a half miles, really nothing to fret about. Mile 3, we had a little bit of a incline as we went over a bridge, but just was able to take in a beautiful view of the city as the sun had risen. Absolutely beautiful. And so, like I say, for the first 11 and 11 and a half miles of the race, everything was beautiful. It was the calm before the storm. Enter mile 11 and a half. As you go up the bridge, what awaited us on the other side of the bridge is what is known as Oakland, the Oakland Hills. And for as gentle as the first 11 and a half miles was, or as gentle as the first 11 and a half miles were, the next 11 miles were absolutely a beast, absolutely an unforgiving beast. But what I love about it is that the encouragement from the fans seemed to only intensify. I mean, the vibe it got better. The encouragement was louder. Just everything about it, the support, for as great as it was in those first 11 and a half miles, it just continued to intensify on the back half. They absolutely did a phenomenal job. And what's interesting, as runners, some of us go into a race and we just really don't have a plan. It's just survive till the end. Other runners have sort of a plan and what's known as negative split. If you're in the running community, you understand this, and if you're new to it, you may not. But the idea behind a negative split is that as the miles go on, your pace actually increases. So your time gets faster with each mile, essentially, is sort of the big picture view of that. And so planning for a race like this, where the first essentially half of the race is going to be gentle and relatively easy compared to the second half, makes it very difficult to try to accomplish equal splits. And so my plan really was, to have the same pace or similar pace on the first half as I did on the back half. I mean, one thought would be go ahead and just burn it on the first half because you're going to be gassed on the back half anyway, and sort of bank those paces or those times on those miles and then just try to survive on the back half. When in reality, I thought maybe a better approach for me would be um, to go out maybe at like 85% of the pace that I wanted, 90% on the first half, so that I had some gas in the tank in the second half. My coach came up with a great plan, and I did my best to sort of follow that. And Coach Todd's plan was spot on. Really had a lot of energy. I mean, I had enough to really sort of keep that pace through those back 13 miles, and I get to mile 24, and then it happened. It happened. I hit the pain cave, the wall, the hallucination thing, like whatever you want to call it. It was wild, and I knew I knew what was happening, and so rather than panic, which I've done in the past, um, I just kind of stopped, like right where I was. I got a drink. I happened to be right by a hydration station. Got a drink. Just kind of stopped, got my breath, collected myself, and just said, whatever I need to do to get through mile 20, that's what I'm going to do. And so I did. I really just tried to survive through mile 24. And I remember Coach telling me that those last couple miles is really all about how much discomfort are you willing to take on? Like, how uncomfortable are you willing to be? And it was in those last couple miles that I realized, like, I am a flatlander from Southwest Kansas who has trained through the winter and into the spring for this. I did not come here to just try to hang on the last mile. And so it might have been the dumbest thing I've ever done, but I just went all gas, no brake. I didn't have a lot of fuel in the tank, but I just absolutely went all out. My body was hurting in places I didn't know I had. And I just remember as we got close to that finish line, there was just this overwhelming sense of joy, a joy that I remember experiencing back in Detroit back in November, which really led me and prompted me to put this podcast together, and just so really feeling that joy. And if you've been close to the finish line before, like, you know what I'm talking about, and just thousands of people who have no clue who I am, just cheering me on, saying, "You're so close, you got it, you got it, you got it." And to cross that finish line and then to turn around and look as just dozens and dozens and now hundreds of more people are coming across the finish line and they're experiencing that same thing. Man, just what an overwhelming sense of joy. And then in an instant, as I was getting kind of sentimental and caught up in my feelings, just watching everyone else celebrating and trying to celebrate with them, as they do, especially in these bigger races, they just sort of herd you along like cattle. They want you to keep going, to get your water, then to stop and get your banana, then to get your snacks, and then they just sort of eventually funnel you out into the post-race party in whatever local park or plaza that they choose. And that was very much the case here. They did a great job with it, but I just remember that walk being so long. I felt like I walked 2 miles after the finish line, and I know it wasn't anywhere close to that. But as I got into the post-race party, I just remember being so happy. I wanted a PR. I mean, that's what I'm after every race. But I knew that I hadn't got it, but I didn't know how far off I was. And turns out it was actually the second best time that I've ever gotten in now the 8 marathons that I ran. And so a 3:47:47, I was relatively pleased with. I mean, 3:45 was what I was trying to break. That was my previous PR. But for this course and for that challenge and for what it took, those last few miles, that head game that I had to play, I was really thrilled with that. And so I was kind of in this celebratory mode, and I remember I started getting real dizzy, and which isn't uncommon. I mean, I've done it before. It happens, maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and then it kind of goes away. But something was a little different. Like it came and then it went away, but then it came back and then it went away and then it came back, and it just seemed to keep coming back. And so decided that I'd probably make the wise decision, and without a family or friends there, make a pit stop in the medical tent, and the folks there, the medics took great care of me. It wasn't really that big of a deal, especially compared to what some other people were dealing with in there. And so, I don't know, was in there maybe 15, 20 minutes. I then had a chance to really walk around and enjoy the festivities. And I mean, the people of Pittsburgh they're phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal, welcoming, encouraging, hugs, cheering you on. I mean, people who've never seen you don't know you and who will probably never see you again in their life. Just so welcoming and hospitable. Absolutely first class. I cannot brag on this marathon and this weekend experience enough. If you haven't done it and you ever have the opportunity to do it, do it. You will not regret it. So I get back to the hotel, and I realized, though, before I walked back to the hotel, that my feet hurt in a different kind of way than they usually hurt. I really thought that I had broken my second toe on my right foot. And so I went and found a bench and sat down, and I realized that before the race, I had loosened my laces a bit in hopes that my feet wouldn't be so tingly as sometimes they are if my laces are too tight. But the problem with that is laces that are too loose also lead to blistering. So that second toe that I thought was broken was protruding with a blister that was ripping my toenail off. And so not to be too gross, but it made for a pretty painful walk the rest of the day, I'll say that. And so talked to my wife, talked to some loved ones, some friends who had been checking in on me from back home and just from all over the country, teammates, and just all the post-race encouragement, all the stuff. And to any of you who had sent messages to me during the race, before the race, or after the race, thank you. That means far more than you'll ever know. And to the runners out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about and how encouraging that can be, and really what a blessing that is. So then after the race, I've left the med tent, and I'm like, I am hurting. I mean, I was bearing all the uncomfortable that I could and more. And so my goal at that point was just to get back to the hotel. But the problem was my hotel was still like a mile and a half away. The bigger problem that presented is that was as the crow fly, not as marathon traffic allowed. There was no point A to point B back to my hotel. I ended up, I think, having to go like maybe 2 or even 3 more miles out of my way just to get a route to where I could get back to my hotel, cross the bridge, and get there. And on the way back, I just had this incredibly amazing, stupid idea that I really need to take in another Pirates game. And I think I had time. I'd be a little bit late, but I thought, you know what? When in Rome, I'm going to go to another Pirates game. That stadium is absolutely beautiful. And so long story short, I make it back to the hotel. I take about a 5-minute shower. I'm just limping miserably. I go next door, hop on the riverboat again, and the guys there, they're laughing at me now. They knew me from the day before that I was going to run the race, and now that I had run the race, and I was very clearly had ran the race by the way I was limping around. They had some fun at my expense, but it was all good natured. Loaded up on the boat, went to another Pirates game. Absolutely beautiful day. I mean, the pictures that I took from where I was sitting, it looks like a painting or like a poster that someone made. But again, set by some of the nicest people you'll ever meet in the world, surrounded by 6 Pittsburghians. I don't know how you say it. And I got a 7-inning crash course on the culture of Pittsburgh. Really, really fun stuff, really cool stuff that I had observed, but I really didn't know what it meant. There is a word, if you go to Pittsburgh, you need to know, and the word is yuns, spelled I-I-N-Z, spelled yins, pronounced yuns, literal translation, y'all. That's the Pittsburgh word for y'all. It's yuns. And then they say something with downtown. They say something like Duntown or something like that. I don't really get it all. But if you're ever in Pittsburgh and you can throw that word yuns around, you will be welcomed and accepted immediately. Really cool fun facts about Pittsburgh. They have their own version of the cheesesteak sandwich. Instead of using provolone cheese, they use American cheese. And turns out Pittsburgh folks put French fries on everything, like not just in burritos or on sandwiches, but they even put French fries on their salad, like the green lettucey salad. It's wild. I didn't give it a try, but I saw lots of people who did. If you're ever in Pittsburgh, just remember and be ready, French fries on everything. Just some fun facts about the race if you are curious. The Dick's Sporting Goods Pittsburgh Marathon is not paying me to say this, by the way, but just some fun facts that I think you should know. This year, again, there were over 52,000 runners. It was the first time in the race's history that every version of the race, from the 5K to the little kids mile run, all the way up to the marathon, was completely sold out. Over 52,000 runners, again, with over 300,000 spectators lining the 14 different neighborhoods involved in the course. The winning time for the Pittsburgh Marathon, I believe he was a local, Will Lovner, ran the course in 2 hours and 14 minutes. And y'all, I'm just going to be honest, that is disrespectful when you think about how many hills, nearly 1,000 feet of elevation. But the reality is, of that elevation, I would venture to guess most, if not all of it, is within about the back 13 miles of that race. So yeah, 1,000 feet of elevation. Just absolutely a wonderful experience. And again, just the way the hospitality continued. I know I keep beating this drum, but it's so true. After the race, after the game, I decided, I'm going to go somewhere good and eat. Like, I'm not going to order Domino's in or whatever. And so I'm always kind of worried, like, what are people going to think? I'm here by myself, whatever, blah, 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 pouting me. But I decided to go. There was a restaurant called The Melting Pot. I have never had that experience. It's really cool. There's like, you basically become your own chef. You cook your own food right there on the table. So whether it's steak or lobster, which was my choice for the night, I did pamper myself a bit. It was fantastic, and it was really cool because the server there somehow found out my time, and on my plate she wrote, "You crushed it, 3:47:47." Unbelievable. A server at a restaurant who did not know me from Adam. It's probably why she asked my name. Makes a lot of sense now. Probably was able to look it up, but again, literally from start to finish, Pittsburgh, you absolutely crushed it. Thank you for welcoming a stranger, for the hospitality, for the kindness, for going out of your way to help folks from out of town who really didn't know and wouldn't know how to get around. Absolutely incredible. And so again, I'll say this: if you are considering looking for a spring marathon in 2027 and you can swing it, Pittsburgh will not disappoint. Everything about it, the organization, the swag, the production piece of it, just the maps that they provide you to get around, absolutely incredible. The support, the encouragement, all of it, 12 out of 10. But I will encourage you, warn you, hill train, hill train, hill train. You will thank me later. And with that all being said, this has been the Pittsburgh edition of the Run Dusty Run podcast. Join us next week as we have a very special guest who is coming off of a London Marathon finish. That's right, a world major. So excited to introduce you to her next week. It's going to be a blast, but until then, thank you so much for joining us again on the Run Dusty Run podcast, where we continue to encourage you to keep showing up and keep going.